Okay, let's call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Okay, now let's talk about the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the last meeting?
Commissioner Lebo will move to approve the minutes.
And a second?
Commissioner Ambrose will second the approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Any opposed? Then the motion passes. Okay. Now we'll move on to the traffic survey. Jamie, do you want to read that, or I guess that's the way we do it? The traffic survey? If you don't, I can do it.
Muted. Jamie, it looks like you're muted still.
She's muted too. Yeah.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. Traffic survey number one. Traffic surveys. Number one location, Wilson Street, between Churchill Road and Park Avenue. Nature of request. Wilson Street is a densely settled, exclusively residential street that serves as a feeder from Park Avenue to Stratfield Road. It bifurcates a residential area and is currently posted at 30 miles an hour. Given the majority of the streets in Fairfield, if not all, which are of this characteristic, are posted between 25 miles an hour, we respectfully request the posted speed on Wilson Street be reduced to 25 miles an hour. By whom, Ms. Sarah Roy. Recommendation needs further comment.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Old business, there's none. New business.
Wait, no, we got to discuss.
We have to act on the
Public comment.
On this.
You would go to public comment on the traffic survey, Commissioner.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Is there public comment on the?
I think there's a couple public comments.
I'd like to hear from the public. I'd like to hear from the public. Would you please state your name?
My name is Sarah Roy, and I live at 3 Buena Vista Road, which is at the corner of Buena Vista and Wilson. And I am the person who helped spearhead that petition. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to take a look at this. And as it stated, and as Jamie read, this street is a densely populated road. It's purely residential, and we're just asking that the speed be reduced to reflect and bring it in alignment with streets of similar characteristics in Fairfield that are also 25 miles per hour and not 30 miles per hour. I think that's it. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
I would like to make a comment, if I may.
And you are, sir?
That's a Bill Pollock at 49 Newman Place, about a block away from where Wilson Street intersects with Churchill Road. I had submitted email testimony as well, so I'll just reiterate some of what I had in there. That Wilson Street, I'm sure many of you know it and have experienced it. It is a narrow road. Many residences, all residences along it. It's got some winding parts. It's got some changes in topography elevation-wise. And it's interesting that when you are traveling on Wilson and you get to the intersection of Stratfield Road and cross over to Fairfield Woods Road, Fairfield Woods Road is a 25-mile-per-hour road. It's much wider and visibility is better, but yeah, it's a 25-mile-per-hour road. it seems to make a lot of sense that Wilson would also be 25 miles per hour. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other discussion among the members of the board? Or any other more?
Chairman, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, Commissioner Stone, as the only commissioner who was on the traffic study with Captain Calamaris, I just point out that it makes a lot of sense to lower that speed limit from 30 to 25. If you look at Queen Street in Bridgeport, which comes directly across Park Avenue onto Wilson, that also is 25 miles an hour. So you come down as far as Churchill Road at 30, then you drop back across Stratfield Road, and then you, as Mr. Pollack pointed out, as you go up Fairfield Woods Road, it's a much wider road. The setbacks are much greater, and it makes tremendous sense to maintain the 25 zone that is established on Fairfield Woods Road. Now, it is my understanding as well that Captain Calamaris and the town engineer, Bill Hurley, did their own separate ride through there, looking at some sign locations. So I would suggest we hear from the captain first, and then I'll make a motion.
Okay. Captain?
That's for the captain again.
Captain, would you like to speak, please?
Oh, there you go. How about now? Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this petition came forward as a result of a community meeting we had that was attended by many. Sarah Roy kind of took the lead of this with the assistance of Mr. Pollack, who is an engineer. In addition to that, we did ride along with Bill Hurley to look at some of the improvements, low-cost improvements that we could make to the neighborhood. Just for the record, I'd like to get a couple of things on. The speed study that was conducted in both lanes indicated an 85th percentile speed of 33.5 miles per hour eastbound and 34.7 miles per hour westbound. The volume study indicated actual daily travel of 3,486 vehicles per day in both directions. Crash statistics for Wilson Street showed that since March 2017, there have been 4 motor vehicle collisions. Of these 4 crashes, 2 resulted in minor damage from a rear-end strike. 1 person struck the bridge abutment near Valley Road, and 1 operator struck the parked car while he was having a medical emergency. As I said earlier, the petition has received great support by the neighborhood. They have a good neighborhood program that is in effect at this time, and their police department supports it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner.
Commissioner Stone, I would, with those comments in mind from Captain Calamaris, I would additionally point out that on a portion of Wilson Street, there are no sidewalks on a narrow street, which makes it even more dangerous. So I would make a motion that we approve the request as augmented by the sign locations and improvements indicated by the captain.
Okay, Commissioner. Do we have a second on that?
I'd like to.
Peter Ambrose, second.
All right. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lee, I just want to stand in favor of reducing this to 25. And I too went down there. One of the biggest things that I noticed was the sidewalks. So I will support this.
Okay.
So the motion has been moved and properly seconded.
So the motion has been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion?
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes.
Good.
Okay. Item number 4 is old business. There is no business. Item number 5 is new business. Item 5 is animal control donations as follows, and a couple of forms. I know everybody has them in front of them. If nobody minds, do you want me to read them or just make a motion to accept them?
Commissioner, I think we could just make the motion to accept them. I don't think we need to read them.
Okay. I'll make the motion to accept then if there's a second.
Commissioner Stone, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, item number 5 under new business is the canine donations as follows, and nobody minds if we can do them in the same manner. I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay.
Commissioner.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? The motion passes.
Okay, item number 5C under new business is a report on overtime.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chief Liddy from the Police Department. I can address that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So in your backup documents, we gave you a fiscal year printout of our weekly overtime averages. Currently, there are actually 6 pay periods left in the fiscal year with an ending balance of $164,000. We are estimating that I should start by saying overtime is created through special assignments, when officers exercise leave such as vacation, comp time, or personal time, and staffing levels dip below what we deem to be safe staffing levels on all 3 shifts. Obviously, COVID-19 has created some additional overtime problems for us, and we are expecting to go over budget in overtime, but only slightly. In addition, we have a surplus in our payroll line due to vacancies of $174,000. So at the end of the day, or at the end of the fiscal year, we think we'll be negative on overtime, but only slightly. In addition, we're expecting FEMA reimbursements for the overtime expended due to the COVID-19 virus. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions on this item.
I got a question. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay, so March 13th school day, the March 15th, I think the transfer. Someone came.
Ron, can you speak up a little, Ron? We can't hear you.
So the question is, did that help mitigate the
I think you need to speak up.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Better.
Yes.
Commissioner Pine, this is
Okay,
Jason
so,
Greenfield. The platform says that you're connected by the audio of your device and not your phone. Just to let you know, so the microphone of your device is what is capturing your audio.
Speak loud, Ron.
How about can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here we go. School is closed. March 13th. March 15th, you transferred a bunch of guys from the school shooting back to school, and also the traffic unit. Did that help mitigate some of the overtime costs?
If I understand the question correctly, we transferred at the beginning of the pandemic our school safety unit, which consisted of 7 officers, to the patrol division. Did that have an effect? Yes, on several weeks, particularly if you look at April 16th, That was the lowest overtime number we have ever had, basically. It varied because weather kicked in, and then one of those weeks we closed our beaches and parks, and we had to create additional patrols to monitor that and keep people safe. So it varied from week to week. It varied based on weather. Obviously, on rainy days, we didn't staff up. On blue sky days, we did. In addition of those 7 officers, one of them, Lieutenant Y in particular, is commanding our COVID-19 operations. So he's not part of the mix. In addition, we took one of those officers and assigned him to the mental health aspect of the pandemic. So that officer is coordinating with other town agencies, working out of Dwight School, and following up with individuals and families that are in crisis. It's been a very successful program and has garnered the attention of the White House, the model that we're using. Hope I answered your question, Commissioner.
You did, but I also, I don't want to jump in here, but I see a copy of the activity log prepared by Lieutenant Wyatt. It has established standby schedule as COVID-19 infection measure, often pressure and environment placed on standby for the end of the week. What was that all about?
I'm not sure I quite got every word of your question. You were referring to a standby?
Well, you included a copy of the activity log in our packet.
Okay.
So
there was a several-week period where we decided to staff down. Our call volume dropped significantly. At the beginning of this pandemic, we were very concerned about keeping reserve officers healthy that could come in under the theory that we were going to lose 25% of our workforce. This was done in cooperation and consultation with all the other police chiefs in Connecticut, and was a model that we all adopted. And that lasted about 2 weeks, but then we began closing our parks and beaches, and we began an uptick in the social distancing complaints, and we weren't seeing the officers going out with COVID-related illnesses. To date, we have one officer who had it and recovered. We have one full-time civilian that had it and is recovering. And we have one officer that has tested antibody-wise and confirmed that he had it, but was asymptomatic during the entire event. So we did not lose 25% of our workforce, and we ended up bringing all of them back to work.
Okay, my question is obviously yourself and many other issues that we'll see a lot of phone calls. We're just trying to clarify. We're not trying to put in a spot. Just to clarify for the public that, if they keep questioning you, obviously, as you understand, the Board of Plans is questioning it.
Please speak in.
Ron, you have to speak a little more clearly because we're having trouble understanding your part of the conversation.
All right.
Commissioner Pine, this is Jason Greenfield. Commissioner Pine, I might suggest dialing in with your phone and switching the audio to that to make it easier, so you can just hold the phone up. Do you need those instructions?
Got the phone. Let's just see. One.
We don't want to give those dial-in instructions.
Is better?
It's
better.
Hello, yes?
Yep.
Well, go ahead.
For the other commissioners that have dialed in with their telephones, just because there's a lot of background noise, we're trying to keep everybody's phones muted. If you dial *6, you'll be able to unmute your phone.
Okay, can you hear me?
Go ahead, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so myself and I think a number of other commissioners have received phone calls about this. We're just doing our job as far as clarifying the overtime and the expenses, because apparently a number of people, I mean, as you know, on April 9th, the Fairfield Citizen published the top 10 earners in Fairfield and the top 10 in police officers. So, not that we're questioning that, but apparently there's a number of people that call myself and other commissioners about they want us to just delve into this overtime. So don't take it as a personal attack on anything. We just want to do like that.
Stop him. Tell him it starts off fine and then it goes down.
Ron, we really can't hear you. And just so everybody, I sent a message from Selectman Flynn is also apparently.
No.
Selectman Flynn's also on this, but I don't see him anywhere. Is he muted or? Tom Flynn is apparently on the call, but I don't see him on there. Do you
Commissioner
see
Millington,
him?
it's Jason Greenfield. It's possible that he may have dialed in on the public call-in number. All those people are contained in a separate list that we can't see here. I can see them from this position, and they're all muted. There's no ability for them to speak in. If we know...
All right.
So you guys can't hear me at all?
Jason, how can we make the audio better?
For Commissioner Pine, so I've gone through and I've muted a number of people's connection, but for Commissioner Pine, I'm showing that the audio is not coming from the phone in your hand, but that's in fact coming from your device. So if you want to dial in or hang up the phone and redial in, that may solve some of the audio issues.
Tell him start and then
for if I Selectman Flynn needs some information about coming in on the WebEx platform, I can send that over as well.
Oh. Okay, so my audio is no good, right?
Well, it starts off fine, and then I don't know what happens. It kind of trails off.
All right, I don't know, maybe this microphone is no good. I'm on the phone, I maybe the computer. This is not working at all. No?
No, not really.
All right. Let me try something else. Hold on. Can you hear me now? I'm using the computer like that.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, maybe that's a bad news. Let's use the computer. So where did I leave off that you couldn't hear? The whole thing?
Something, I don't know, about the extra cops, the overtime cops.
So, a number of people have called me, and I guess other commissioners, about, on April 9th, the salaries of the top 10 earners in Fairfield came out, and it was the top 10 police officers, and a lot of it was overtime. And I've received a lot of phone calls. I know the Board of Finance has some concerns. So, as a police commissioner, I just wanted to ask a few questions about the overtime. And Chief Lee, I could hear you, and you kind of explained it, how the overtime went, and how you deployed your guys, and transferred, and you had an officer doing mental health or something like that. What you said, Chief Lee?
Correct.
Okay. So, and then you had there was a question about the standby officers, because the conference with the chief of police, the chief of police said that you don't want to lose your workforce, so you had guys staying home, and we were afraid you were going to reduce your workforce by 25%, if I remember you correctly. So that was the reason we had guys on standby. When that didn't happen, you brought the guys back. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. So that answers that question. Okay, I'm done for now. Thank you.
Commissioner, if I could address your original question, which I think was the April 9th article in the paper concerning wages received. I just want to point out a vast majority of that was a result of all the construction and road jobs that you see throughout the town of Fairfield. We've had an unprecedented year, actually an unprecedented 2 years regarding the amount of work that is out there. And I would remind everybody that is reimbursed 100% by the outside vendors, and the town actually makes a profit off of that type of work. Thank you.
Okay, well, on that note, excuse me, Commissioner again, Mr. Caparelli, comment possible? Mr. Caparelli, can I comment further?
What's that?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I received, a citizen called me up, and there's something about the extra work, okay? So I think the town gets paid $65 an hour, and they bill the contractor, and then I think it's $25 an hour for the car. Is that correct, Chief?
That's correct.
Okay. So this person I called who didn't want to remain anonymous was saying that if you have an officer, a sergeant, lieutenant, or a captain who's working that job, you might be paid up to $100 an hour, but yet the town is only billing the contractor $65 an hour. Is that true?
I don't know the exact number, but yes, there are people within the organization at higher ranks that do make more than $65 an hour. So on those particular assignments, we would be losing money.
Okay.
I would add that many of the jobs that go unfilled go to special officers that currently are around the $20 an hour range. So the account has been profitable over the last couple of years.
Okay, I just want to further comment, and I realize that this is a contractual thing, and we have no say on that, because it's in the union contract that we're going to go. The officer is a lieutenant, works a job.
I can't.
You can't hear me?
Can't hear the last
Okay.
sentence.
Okay, so
Is it just me, or is everybody just cutting in and out? Because I can't make out any things are cutting in and out. I can barely hear what anybody is saying. Is that just me, or?
Commissioner Millington, this is Jason Greenfield. Our connection seems to be okay here at the police department. We're hearing most of you okay without any issue, with the exception of Commissioner Pine. It sounds like that your microphone port on your computer potentially is blocked, but you just now as you were speaking, it was getting better.
Yeah, I hear you, Jamie.
okay, I'm going to get closer to the microphone.
Yeah, just that baby. Get up there. Get up there.
It's a contractual thing, and the union contract is through 2022. So it's just something where this citizen is questioning it. I just want to confirm with you. There's nothing really that this board can do anything about. It's a contractual thing, and I just wanted to point out that the chief has explained that overall we're making money on this. Is that correct, Chief?
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Are there any more comments or questions from the commission?
Were the officers that are Independence Hall, are they reassigned from like SRO, or is that an overtime position?
Those are overtime position. We are not staffing Independence Hall any longer, but we are staffing Old Town Hall, and that is an overtime position.
Okay. When you look at all the overtime numbers for the year, it looks like you're on average about $50,000 a week. Is there an issue that there's not, the staffing is too low, or is this just like, how would you? It seems like a pretty high weekly burn. If is that because you need more people, or?
It's a delicate balance. Currently we have 4 vacancies, 2 of them being fairly recent. we find that the correct balance is having 2 vacancies within the agency, but it's always a moving target. I would say that, without the COVID-19 situation, I think we would have come in right on budget this year. And there's still a possibility we may come in right on budget. But it's a moving target right now. We're going to be close.
Okay.
And yes, to answer your question, certainly the higher your staffing levels are, the less overtime. But there is a level where overtime is a better option because you're not paying all the fringe costs associated with hiring an officer.
Any further discussion? No? Okay, should we move on to the next thing?
Okay, so item number 5D is the special police hourly wages.
Chief, do you have a comment?
Again, it's in your backup, but I will point out that in next fiscal year, we requested a 2% raise for our special officers. That is consistent with raises given throughout the town. It was due to a fact that we went several years without giving them any raises, and we were trying to catch up. Their current hourly rate is $14.57 an hour, and this was an increase from $14.01 per hour in 2019, and the 2% request represents a 29 cents per hour increase to $14.86 per hour. I would note that special officers purchase their own equipment also.
Are there any further questions from the commission?
Commissioner Pine, I understand you well, but I think you guys are on the page. Even with the increase, we're talking about the state, the minimum hourly wage, $15 in a couple of years. So, these guys are wearing the uniforms, they're putting themselves at risk. I can't believe they're only getting paid less than $15 an hour, but that's just me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Well, I guess we'll move on with the COVID.
Okay. Item number 5E under new business is COVID-19 staffing levels and overtime.
I think I pretty much addressed that. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I've pretty much addressed that. Staffing levels during the pandemic have varied day to day. It varied based on weather that we were seeing. It varied based on pre-closures versus post-closures, blue sky days, and number of complaints. Added to that was a 2-week period where we were very concerned about the health of our officers and anticipating a 25% workforce reduction. And we brought everybody back when that didn't happen. I've also listed our daily activity logs that show you some of the related events that we've participated in daily, addressing different pandemic items. If there's a specific question that I can help you with, feel free.
Are there any questions from the commission?
One.
Was there any use of the special officers during all of this for the additional people at beaches or, even like town hall? Were they ever considered to be used, the special officers, or?
When we first went into a shutdown, we actually suspended all work by specials and sent them home. And the reason being they are a very elderly population. Most of our special officers are retirees. and we were very concerned about their health. And so we ended all railroad station operations. We weren't staffing our beaches at that point. Now, with the reopening, the soft opening just happening last week, our specials are back to work and manning our beaches just like 2019. We have not opened up the railroad station as of yet.
Okay. I think that I may have just moved into new business 5F is COVID staffing at beaches, et cetera. So I think that may have just been gone over.
Well, that's good.
So,
sounded pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still having, things are cutting in and out, so this is a little awkward, but, all right, so item under new business, item 5G is inventory of police vehicles.
Chief, your comments on that, Chief?
Sure, when you want to get to that.
Did we lose him?
I don't know.
I'm here. I'm just getting to that page. Thank you. Can you hear me all right, Commissioner?
Yep.
Okay, so within your backup, I gave you a 3-page color chart breaking down every vehicle we have, the mileage of each vehicle, what year it is, and what division or unit it is assigned to. The overall report reflects that our inventory is 84 vehicles. Of those 84 vehicles, 41 or 49% of them have over 70,000 miles. 15% or 13 vehicles have over 100,000 miles. And breaking them down by division shows that some of the vehicles, specifically 6 vehicles, are assigned exclusively to the road jobs, the construction sites that you see throughout Fairfield. That's not to say we don't have more than 6 construction jobs. We sometimes have as many as 25 construction jobs. So we pull from this fleet of vehicles to accommodate those jobs. With that, I would be happy to answer any specific questions.
Does the commission have any questions?
How many are you gonna? This is Commissioner Pond. We're gonna purchase some new cars because it seems like they have a lot of mileage in them.
Was the question, are we going to purchase new cars?
Yes.
Ron, we didn't hear you.
Okay.
We got to do a little better job here.
Commissioner Pine, are we in the process of purchasing new cars? Because it seems like a lot of the cars have had mileage.
So things on the list. There are 2 cars that are 2019 that are still in process. They are still in the build process, so we haven't received them yet. We are also currently in the budget process. So we have, I think, 5 cars have been approved by the Board of Finance, and we go before the RTM tomorrow night. So I don't know what what next year's fleet is going to pass yet.
Any further questions on this? Next item on the agenda?
Next item on the agenda under new business is 5H, the ECC Consolidation Project update.
And I will turn it over to Deputy Chief Don Smith for comment on that item.
Good afternoon, everybody. Don Smith. So to give you an update, afternoon. So I don't remember if we had mentioned to the commission yet, we are moving forward with the project. We have a new location at Sacred Heart. The old location There were complications with the hockey rink project. The Sacred Heart found us another location that in actuality is probably going to work better. It gives us more space. It's on the main campus. So we're optimistic that it's actually going to be better than what our original plan was. The lease was approved by both Westport and Fairfield, and I believe Sacred Heart was supposed to have signed it yesterday. I'm waiting for confirmation on that, so the lease will be done. We are working on the interlocal agreement between Westport and Fairfield. In fact, we just were speaking with the town attorney yesterday to try to move that process forward, iron out a couple details, because that is another big piece to this to allow it to go forward. We've hired an architect who has surveyed the site. They are currently drafting the conceptual drawings that we'll then approve, and then we'll get the detailed drawings. It's about a 5-week process for that. Once that's in place, we are going to start the build. And then the last step is for budgeting is the operational annual budget for next fiscal year has been approved by the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance and the goes to RTM.
So we are lost you for the last few sentences.
Okay. How about now? Can you hear me now?
Now it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
The operational budget has been approved by the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance and goes to the RTM tomorrow night for the 2021 fiscal year. And then it's just going to be getting it built. So we are moving forward. In reality, I'm still pushing for a September opening date. We've still got a lot of work to do for that to happen, though.
Okay. Any questions for anyone? It's not.
Okay, thank you.
Pardon me? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Jamie. Okay, now we're going to talk about the captain's contracts.
Oh. Thank you, Commissioner. I'm not sure.
Chief Liddy, would you like to discuss that? Or?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I believe.
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm there somewhere, but I believe the question came up regarding the captain's contracts and on-call pay. We have 3 captains within the agency. They are outside of the bargaining unit. So each of them negotiated an individual contract with the town of Fairfield. As part of that contract, they each annually receive $3,600 in on-call pay, and that is to compensate them on the times that they have to come in on weekends or attend the nighttime meetings that they are not compensated for with overtime.
Okay. I understand. Are there any questions from the commission?
Chief, for chief, deputy chief, and captain, do they get paid overtime outside of? I know the stipend comes out of the overtime budget, but there's no additional overtime, is there?
There's no additional overtime. The chief and the deputy chief do not receive on-call pay. That was just an item that was negotiated by the 3 individual captains.
So in the last year's earnings thing, because, I've heard this from several people now, they're quoting that some of the captains received overtime, but if I believe I'm reading it right, those captains were lieutenants that were eligible for overtime during the last fiscal year before they were promoted. Is that why that would be appearing there?
In part, but captains do get last right of refusal when it comes to outside services. So if the gas company opened up a road and an officer had to direct traffic, it goes to all the union members first. But if they don't want it, and so the job would go unfilled, a captain can work that job. And again, as I stated before, there is so much construction work taking place in the town of Fairfield, the captains were able to take advantage of that.
And that would be shown when the if somebody was to FOI something, which apparently people have, and they see the pay structure, they're not going to see the breakout on what they're getting as private duty. It would just be characterized as overtime, correct?
I believe the finance department can break that out, but there is no overtime for captains or people outside of the bargaining unit. So it's exclusively outside services.
Okay.
Any further questions on this issue?
Okay, we'll move on. And sorry, Commissioner Caparelli, I muted myself the last time, so I wasn't able to read. I was reading the agenda, but nobody was hearing it. So item under new business, item number 5J is take-home cars.
So I've copied some contract language that's in your backup. So take-home cars are the chief of police, the deputy chief, the 3 captains, and then by contract, the 4 specialty lieutenants within the department. There are 4 lieutenants that are outside of the patrol division, and they have cars assigned to them. That's contract language that was negotiated quite a few years ago, and in Appendix J, it lists that language. Happy to entertain any questions about those take-home cars.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jack Stone, Chief, I noticed in the contract that it's includes trips to New York. I'm just curious why and what that's about.
Okay.
And you know, I think way back. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Good to hear. I think that was negotiated a very long time ago, but I believe it was to accommodate travel to the New York airports. But that language probably is 25 years old.
Okay.
Chief, I got an email that was sent to me with, and obviously we all get a lot of emails, and I'm not sure whether this information is accurate, but that total number of take-home cars at this point are 34. I mean, I don't see that here, so I'm sure that's probably not the case.
That was not the case. I do want to mention that there is a distinction between a take-home car and a portal-to-portal car. There are certain people within the organization, detectives and crash investigators, that are assigned a car, and to increase our response time, they are authorized to drive their car home and drive it back to work. There is no off-duty allowance to use the car for any other reason. It is strictly to come to work quickly in an emergency with all their equipment.
Commissioner Pond, I have a question. Chief?
Yes, go ahead, Brian.
All right, so I'm looking at the contract also. You have individual lieutenants, administrative division, detective division, and special services division. And you mentioned there were 4. The contract only has 3. What's the 4th lieutenant?
The 4th lieutenant is the school safety lieutenant. And that was created through a special agreement when that position was elevated from sergeant to lieutenant probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, so it's not covered in the actual contract. It's outside, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's it. No further questions.
Do we have any other questions from the commission?
All right, hearing none, item number 5K under new business is parking ticket management system update, parking ticket violation update. Subsection A is failure to properly display a permit/plate, $25. Subsection B is non-electric vehicle parked in electric charging station designated space, $25. Subsection C, failure to pay day parking fee, $35. Subsection D, violation of parking authority regulations, $35. Subsection E, discuss increasing the late fee for handicapped and restricted B.
Okay.
I'm going to turn it over to D.C. Smith for those questions.
Thank you, Chief. Don Smith. So, a little brief before we get to the actual fines. The last about year and a half to 2 years, we've been working with the parking authority to go out and get a different parking management system. The old company's platform was very, very outdated, inefficient, very difficult to work with. So went out for an RFP. We went through the process, and we have selected a new parking ticket management company, and it's going to update and modernize the whole parking as far as like the train station and downtown. Like the biggest thing is the permits that used to hang on the windows are going to go away, and it's going to be license plate based. The railroad stations will be patrolled by a car with a license plate reader that will be able to tell if the car parked there holds a permit or not. So, you don't have to get out of the car and be looking in windows for it. It'll all be license plate based. The other part of it is the $6 day parking, whereas now we put a ticket on a windshield and they have to put a check in the envelope and mail it in. It's moving to a kiosk or pay by phone or app system. So if you park there on a day parking spot without a permit, you will pay at a kiosk that'll be at every railroad station, or if you do it a lot, you can have the app on your phone and pay from a wallet. So we're not going to be handing out those tickets moving forward. Much more efficient system. Again, it brings us up in line with what a lot of other municipalities are doing. But with that, we have to look at some of the fines that we're going to charge, because right now, if you didn't pay the $6, the parking authority would try to come after you through a different whole process. So to eliminate that, we're adding in, so the fines we're adding in, the first one is failure to properly display the permit or plate, because the plate now becomes your permit. And if you have it blocked, if you don't have it on your car or it's not visible, you can get a parking ticket for that. I'll skip over B for a second. C, if you were to park in a day parking space, hop on the train, and just decide I'm not going to pay it, you're going to get it's now a ticket. It's a $35 violation. We added a violation of parking authority regulation just to cover any other changes that might be made as a result of the system, so we don't have to come back. We find something 6 months into this, we don't need to reprint tickets and try to go through the approval. So this is a general violation for the $35, which is consistent with the other railroad violations that we issued. And then separate from that, we had two other requests. One was we see more and more of the electric charging stations in town, but there really is no enforcement tool for that currently. So we're adding requesting to add a fine of $25 if you were to park in one of those parking spaces. And finally, the increase of fee for handicapped and restricted beach. If you don't pay a parking ticket, you get a $25 parking ticket today and decide not to pay it, it doubles. So now it's a $50 fee. For handicapped, which is a $150 fee, if you decide you're going to try not to pay that one and get away with it, it only bumped up $5. Not a very big incentive for me to pay that ticket if I know that the worst I'm going to have to do is pay $5 more. And it was actually the same in the restricted beach at the $80. So we are requesting that late fee bump up from $5 to $50 to provide incentive of people to actually pay the ticket on time when they're supposed to. So that's the background behind the new fees that we're requesting.
Any comments from the commission?
Yes, Jack Stone.
Yes, Jack.
Don, on the electric car stations, with increased number of electric cars supposedly coming out, and there's so few electric charging stations in town, I'm wondering if a $25 fee is really realistic. When you look at the difference between, let's say, a handicap spot of $150 versus a $25 parking spot, maybe we should be looking at something more significant to really discourage the use of people violating that electric charging station.
I would throw that out for discussion. We would be in favor of it. We just went with the $25 because it sort of fit in with some of the other fines. But, if the commission feels it's a more significant offense that we want to bump that up, we bump up to the $35 range or the $50 range even, and it'll fit in with some of the other categories.
And I would add, we were going to ask for a motion on this item, so if somebody wanted to make a motion to change any one of the numbers, feel free.
Well, I would make a motion. Jack Stone, Joe. I would make a motion on the electric charging station to bump that number from $25 to $50.
Is there a second on that?
Commissioner Lebo will second it. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All in favor? No.
I just have one question. I just have one question for the enforcement, because people are so used to what a handicap sign looks like and all of those other signs. What is the signage requirement going to be to make sure that people know for sure that they're parking in a electric spot, and that they're not, because especially a lot of older people may not recognize what an electric charging station is. So is there some sort of regulated signage that's going to be used for that?
I'm unaware of any regulated signs, but it's a very valid point that we would have to make sure that we add to the existing signs and make it very prominent that there is a fine if you park in the space and it's not an electric vehicle.
And I would add, like handicap, that sign should also include the fine amount.
Yeah, as long as I have no problem with this, as long as it's properly, marked. Because, like I said, a lot of older residents may not know what that charging station is. So I just, before we hit them with a fine, just to make sure that there's some sort of standardized signage that people can get used to.
Ask Jimmy if he wants to amend the motion.
Jamie, would you like to amend this motion?
Yeah, I would amend it as long as that we impose that new fee for electric charging station designated spaces, as long as they have approved signage from the police. If you think that.
Jack, would you accept that friendly amendment?
I accept that as a friendly amendment.
All those in favor of the amendment?
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Is there any discussion on the motion?
Is there any discussion on the motion of the amendment as amended?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Kiley. Hey, thanks, guys. Can we go back to the train station issue? I think you had mentioned at the beginning of this item, the new system for determining, whether a person has a permit or not.
Sure.
The system that you're contemplating, you mentioned that it was going to be a license plate scan versus the current, sticker or sign that hangs from the front window. Is it a system that will be manually used by the special police looking at the plates and referring to a system?
Kevin, we can't hear you. Could you speak up?
The system that will be used, will it be scanning the license plate?
Yes, it's going to be a license plate reader in a vehicle that's designated for the parking authority. In fact, it'll be marked, parking enforcement. It'll have license plate reader technology with it, and they're just basically will drive down the rows. The license plate reader will scan the plates in the parking lot, and it'll know, because it's all real time, whether one, they have a permit, or two, if they have or have not paid a day parking fee if they're in a day parking space. Because everything is done, if you go to the kiosk, it is entered real time into the system, so we will know if in fact you've either paid it or you have a permit.
Good. My next question is, will that scanning system, will that interact with the other scanning system that the police use to scan other license plates around town for other violations and things like that?
Currently, it is not the same system. It is an independent system that works through the parking company that we're contracting with. So it's specific to parking. I do not believe there's ever been a discussion about tying it into our existing system at this point.
Okay, so it's not tied in today. And the reason I'm asking is pretty obvious. I mean, if they were linked, I just didn't know whether we had any privacy or Big Brother concerns about scanning a plate at the train station for a permit and having that feed into another more, police-type system, if that were to be a concern.
Yeah, as of now, it does not, and I would assume that if we plan to do that, it would come for further discussion.
And I would add, these are special officers that are doing this, so I don't think we would want to tie in law enforcement data and have our specials get involved with enforcement of real crimes.
And I wasn't suggesting that. I was just trying to understand if they were freestanding or interacting systems. So thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, we're voting on the motion as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Motion passes.
Okay, item number 6 on the agenda is the monthly report. Chief?
Chairman Caffarelli, before the chief starts, I'd like a moment of personal privilege. Is that possible?
Sorry?
I'd like the moment of personal privilege.
Please repeat.
Okay, so...
Commissioner Pine is asking for a moment of personal privilege to be granted.
Certainly, Ron.
In honor of Police Week, this is Police Week, National Police Week. I'd like to read something from the U.S. Attorney's Office, John Durham. In normal times, the men and women of law enforcement regularly face situations that place their own safety at risk. This pandemic has undoubtedly greatly increased that risk. Even though many members of law enforcement have contracted this insidious virus, thousands of officers at all hours of the day continue to work across Connecticut to protect our communities. During National Police Week, I ask you to join me in honoring their commitment during this difficult time, and also to remember those officers who have given their life to protect ours. According to the FBI, law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty, where 89 have died during 2019. Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome, Ron. Thank you.
Commissioners, on behalf of the police department, we thank you very much for your kind words. Thank you.
Very well done.
Okay, item number 6 is the monthly report. Chief?
This monthly report obviously reflects the different reality that we've been working in during the last 2 months. So with that, I would be happy to entertain any specific questions regarding the monthly report.
Chief?
Questions?
Yes. Jack Stone?
Yes, Jack.
Chief, I noticed under traffic safety unit, the numbers are 0 for every item. And yet you can turn over into motor vehicle activity and we show 49 automobile accidents. I'm just wondering why we don't show the investigations and that sort of thing on accidents investigated.
So we transitioned our traffic safety unit to social distancing and checking our schools and our beaches and our playgrounds for the most part. They did handle some of the car accidents. Obviously, our accidents are way down. They've also been responsible for our message boards and all the ancillary items that take place right now. We have since and very recently transitioned back to a motor vehicle enforcement stance. So currently, they are out working enforcement details.
It will be great to see them back, Chief.
We understand. We understand what everybody's seeing, and obviously, a portion of our citizenry have taken advantage of the lack of motor vehicle stops and accelerated their speeds and disobeying stop signs. So, thanks for allowing us to deliver the message that we are transitioning back to an enforcement mode.
Any further questions on the report? Well, the next meeting will be June 10th at 4:30. And before that meeting, I'd just like to thank the police for putting this together. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. And it's certainly good to see everybody again. And I guess it's a new normal now, but we'll have to work through it, and the police force is doing an outstanding job. So we thank you for that. Do I have a motion to, is there any further discussion, or is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay. The second?
Second.
Mr. Chairman?
All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you to our department.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Sign off.
Thanks for using WebEx. Visit our website at www.webex.com.